Time will tell. And you're a Mets fan talking on the Yankees, man.
Hey, I mean, come on. We have it on the rundown. I got to talk about it.
We can talk a little bit more here in this segment.
Let's get to my Mets then, Chris. It's October, which means it's probably time for the Mets to start playing baseball with both hands wrapped around their neck.
This time last year, you were watching them, plummet, weren't you?
Aren't they doing the exact same thing right now? I mean,
it just seems that's what they're used to doing around this time of year.
It was just a week ago they were 3 up on the Phillies. They're now 2.5 back. Does anyone want it in the National League?
I don't think so. It doesn't look like. I think the Phillies are going to wind up holding on. I mean, they got the Nationals and the Braves in their last 2 series here this season. Meanwhile, the Mets have they closed out with the Marlins actually, so it should be tougher for them. So I actually think the way the NL looks right now is the way it's going to look in a week. When the postseason starts, I want to get over to the AL.
Hold on. What about the National League wild card race?
The Mets are
only 1 game up on Milwaukee right now. Milwaukee has Pittsburgh at home and the Cubs at home. This is a Cubs team who likely will rest everybody down the final week of that season.
Yeah, Why can't Milwaukee? No, I think the Cubs are still shooting to get that home.
They got it. They clinched it yesterday against the Mets.
Okay, well then, maybe what you said. Maybe the Brewers get in, but I think the Mets got enough to hold on.
And you're not going to even mention the NL West. Dodgers 2 up on the D-backs.
Who's been mentioning that division all year? There's nothing to see.
Tell me the Diamondbacks. Tell me either of those teams don't become a scary team. You look at a rotate, throw out Webb and Herron in 4 or 5 games in a series. That's a scary team.
It's all going to come down to pitching, and I think the Dodgers don't have the pitching to compete with the likes of the Mets or the Cubs or the Phillies. So I don't think they're going to have any chance.
Diamondbacks have the pitching. If they get in,
Diamondbacks
Webb, Herron, Randy Johnson.
I don't think the Diamondbacks are going to get in. Like I'm saying, though.
2 out, 6 left. Let's
go
to the American League.
The real interesting point is in the Central Division. White Sox and the Twins start a series Tuesday night, 3-game set in Minnesota. Minnesota wins all 3 of those games. They're in first place in the Central.
Absolutely.
They're in, baby. If they don't do that, though, I don't think they make it. I think the White Sox will hold on. How about also in the AL East? Tampa Bay Rays, baby. They're in first place. They're going to win the AL East. The Red Sox are not going to catch them. And all year, including myself, I remember back in April saying, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're going to falter off.
When you have good arms, good gloves, and good bats, you have speed on the base.
A heck of a manager.
And, they've believed from the beginning that whole 9 = 8, one of the 8 teams remaining in the postseason, the 9 guys on the field. They've believed from the get-go, even if we as in fans and media members have not.
Yeah.
They're a good team.
I didn't give them an ounce of hope, and they made it.
Well,
so
they made it.
Kudos to Tampa.
I know you're going to talk about them a little later in our show, so we'll save the kudos till then.
Sneak peek to the audience. Let's turn it over to Ann Arbor. Let's get on the volleyball court. And the volleyball team, Danny, in our careers here, they've been pretty darn good. And this year, look at them again. They're 12-0, undefeated going to Big Ten play.
I honestly feel like every year we've done this show together, our season premiere episode is something like, oh wow, look at the Michigan volleyball team sitting 12-0 after
they've just been that good.
Chris, here's why we can't really run with this yet as a huge, oh my God, volleyball team undefeated. Okay, look at the rankings right now, the top 25 rankings for National Women's Volleyball Poll. You have Penn State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Purdue, and Illinois all ranked ahead of Michigan, who's 21st. I mean, that's just an absolute dominating conference. And
they're in a very tough conference. And plus, you're talking about a team that lost its all-time kills leader in Katie Brzezinski, lost the all-time blocks leader in Lindsey Miller, 2 seniors gone. And now you got to look for this new wave to come in. There was a big article in the Daily actually today, and actually the day before actually about Mark Rosen. He's been there 10 years now.
Not to be confused with Sam Rosen.
Of course not. Wolves' own Sports Night producer. But no, he's been there 10 years, and he took Michigan to the best program finish last year, the NCAA regional they went to, which is just awesome. But they had nothing
this is the 3rd straight year they've started 12-0. They have to get off on the right foot in Big Ten play. 2 games on the road, Ohio State and Michigan State, both teams that are not ranked. Michigan Wolverines need to win these 2 games because once that schedule picks up and you have the top-ranked Nittany Lions and top 10 teams in Indiana, Minnesota,
Purdue.
Indiana is not even ranked this year. They're still a top-notch team.
Yeah.
And then you look at your Purdue's, your Illinois. The schedule is going to get tough. It's going to be tough for this team to even have a 500 record in conference play. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Lexi Zimmerman, Beth Karpiak's back. I remember she was pretty good. And then this new girl, Juliana Paz.
Yeah, I saw that name. Leading the team in kills. Good for her. Junior leadership up front. Tall front line. Everyone over 6 feet. So
let's go volleyball.
They got some height on us. Detroit Lions.
New sport. Oh, God.
I believe the D in Detroit no longer stands for Detroit or dominance or whatever it used to. Well, never stood for dominance with the Lions, but it's disaster. It's drama. What's going on? Fire Millen?
Wow. Yeah, really. you think 31 and 84 doesn't mean anything? Marty Morenwig hired back in 2001. Mike Williams draft pick back in 2005, and now Bill Ford Jr. comes out and says, "Oh, I think we should get rid of Millen. If I was in charge, we'd get rid of Matt Millen." You think Bill Ford Jr. You think? I think he's just a moron for coming out and to say that just the obvious, but it does put a little bit of pressure on his father. You know, come out there, show some guts, you know, Mr. Ford, and get rid of this guy. Or Matt Millen, hey, buddy, just get rid of yourself. Your team is horrible. They're 0-3. They're horrible on offense. They're horrible on defense. There's just nothing good to say
Chris,
about this team.
They weren't even competitive, you know, save for that little, you know, moment there late in the fourth quarter against Green Bay when they took the lead. This is not a competitive
No, that was not
team.
A bright moment either.
The Atlanta Falcons ran all over them, literally. Michael Turner in his first NFL start.
Isn't he a Pro Bowler this year? He's going to be a Pro Bowler? He looked like it.
San Francisco, J.T. O'Sullivan looked like a young Joe Montana. I mean, unbelievable. This
and the thing is, Danny,
absolutely nothing. And the thing that bothers me the most is that everyone shares the same sentiment that Matt Millen needs to step down. Why not just get it over with? I mean, why would you put your football fans through this kind of torment? Chris, I went to Ford Field for the college basketball regionals last year, and there were fans there, Lions fans at Ford Field, chanting "Fire Millen" during basketball games. It's gotten to the point where everyone in the town of Detroit and the surrounding areas hates this football
It's a shame with all the bad things happening in the city at this time, with the Kilpatrick case going on, the economy the way it is, gas prices rising every day, and they got to deal with the Lions. They can't, you know, go home and watch a good, productive football team in a blue-collar town and sit back and relax.
And, you know, you see the way other teams are run. You know, the Red Wings are just an absolute, you know,
to put up with this garbage
model.
And people like Millen won't realize when they're not doing their job.
The Tigers are trying. You know, at least the Tigers spent the money and tried to build a good ball club here. I know the season's been a disappointment, but you'd think the Lions would follow suit and realize that the city of Detroit likes its sport teams enough to care about them. You'd think they could put a likable product on the field. They can't do it. It's disappointing.
Marinelli will be here another decade before any changes are made.
Millen probably will too.
Danny, keeping it in football, we got to talk about one of our own, a Michigan man, Tom Brady. May have heard of him, Super Bowl champion 3 times. He's out for the year, though, with the New England Patriots. So now I got to ask you, does his injury just change the whole dynamics of the NFL and the power?
100% yes.
Really?
I mean, this entire AFC is up for grabs. You saw how bad this New England team looked against, you know, a doormat in Miami.
Wow. They just got blown out at home.
Wasn't even a game. So ask yourself now, you know, how many teams are contenders in the AFC? You look at teams like Tennessee, Baltimore, Denver, San Diego, Indianapolis, who's having a little bit of a down year as well. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville.
Yep.
I'm sure there's teams I'm not even naming.
That's the thing. All these teams that you mentioned,
Everybody
the Bills,
has a chance.
Tennessee, where are these teams coming from? You know, there's so much parity in the AFC, and then plus now you look in the NFC. Look at all the power out there. Look at the NFC East. Washington, Philadelphia,
Suddenly that whole
Cowboys.
NFC East is great, and you still have teams. You know, you still have a team like, you know, Tampa Bay's playing.
Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Green Bay. Don't forget about Green Bay.
Absolutely,
that's a heck of a football team. I mean, I think it really does shift it. The thing is, though, I think it shows, you know, how big Brady is. Because with Brady on that Patriots team, you know, it's like the Patriots up here and everybody else is down here. As soon as Brady's hurt, the Patriots back and they're all one now. So
do you think Randy Moss wants to run routes for Matt Castle?
It didn't look like it on Sunday.
Because he's not looking like the same Randy Moss he was last year. And Wes Welker's not that flashy wide receiver who seemingly goes out for, you know, 11 catches, 100+ yards, and a touchdown every game. You know, Welker's suddenly not finding the seams. Moss isn't getting the deep balls. This is not your typical New England Patriots team. I think they're going to face adversity. I think this team could struggle. You know, you saw Rodney Harrison scream out after their loss to the Dolphins that Ricky Williams is playing dirty football. I mean, the fact that Rodney Harrison, of all people, can say that this team is falling apart. They're pointing fingers within the locker room, at other locker rooms. And, you know, I think this team is in trouble.
You know, we're going to talk about this later in the show, actually, in our, the pick-em section. I actually don't think they're in trouble. I think they're fine because they got that one guy, Belichick, the head coach. I think he's a football genius.
You know what they need? I'm going to throw this out there before we go to break. Bring back Dante Culpepper. He's retired. He has the chemistry with Randy Moss. I'm telling you, Dante Culpepper fixes this New England
Patriots. Also overweight, slow, and inaccurate.
Watch, Dante Culpepper starts for this team by week 8. Book it.
Danny Sass, mark his words, folks. We're going to take our first commercial break. Alex Prasad coming up on Main Event, talk a little college football. Keep it here.